Okay, so we'll get started in three, two. Welcome to the Sabertron.com Twincast podcast. This is your interviewer, Megatronus here, sitting down with D Maximal Primal, who went to his first TFcon. What's up, D?
Yeah, it was a blast.
Hooray! And we'll get into that. But just some brief details. So we are speaking on Monday evening, October 28th, the day after TFcon 2019 Washington, D.C. ended. It was in Reston, Virginia. And it was 3 days. And we were there most of the time. D, you were there Thursday night. You did the custom class on Friday. And then I met you and we roomed together for several nights. And it was a blast. So the main, or really the first thing I want to understand is what your expectations were going into the convention. This was your first con, and so we thought it would be fun to kind of get your thoughts on all of the little quirks, idiosyncrasies, and otherwise see how the experience matched up with what you were expecting going in. So why don't we talk about what your expectations were?
Well, I've listened to several different shows and I've seen a bunch of different people and listened to people talk about going to things like BotCon. And unfortunately, I was too late to attend BotCon. But been trying to get to one of these conventions for a couple of years now, and just the last couple of years haven't worked out, and this one worked out. So as for expectations, custom class I was actually expecting a little bit shorter of a class, but ended up being longer and like much more like personal and getting to talk to a bunch of different people and really kind of freestyle. And I mean, it was really refreshing just to have that class to do a custom with everyone there and see what other people do, their techniques and everything, and also just get the chance to talk to people who are a lot better at this stuff
It's
and have
sort
done
of
it.
the calm before the storm, right? Like 40 people get into a room, 40 robots leave with those people.
Yep. And then in my case, right after I walked out of the room, I met a buddy of the podcast host, Scotty P, and ended up buying six figures off him. So that was just kind of a teaser of what was to come, just how loose everything is, how just kind of like at any point in time you could come across somebody who's selling figures and who knows a bunch of different stuff. Because I mean, heck, even when I was waiting for the custom class, I was hanging out with a dude named Slade, and he gave me a Rodimus star pin, and he was handing out pins all weekend. And it was just like one of those things where you're like, if this is what the fandom that comes to these conventions is like, and this is what these conventions are like, then we're off to a really good start. But then
Yeah,
the rest of but then the rest of the convention, it was like, I don't know. My expectations were kind of like a bunch, like there would be a bunch of different people hanging out and cosplaying and going around the deal room and the art room and everything. But what I was not expecting was just how much like outside of the main convention with all the different hotel rooms, people bouncing from room to room, hanging out with each other, running into each other, buying, selling, just partying with each other everywhere. I was not expecting it to be like I was expecting some interaction, but I wasn't expecting like almost the entire hotel to have been taken over by all the Transformers fans who were there. And that was
yeah,
pretty awesome to see just how much everyone actually like hung out outside of the dealer room and stuff. And it was really spectacular. And I was not expecting that. I expected a little bit, but not as much as there was.
yeah. The hotel definitely seemed fancier than what you would expect for a bunch of people gathering together to hang out and bond over toys, right? And I think the thing that you're picking up on is the bonding and the toys, because it seems your initial expectation had to do with seeing the artists and talking to them, getting signatures. And I know you brought some things to get signatures for, and we'll get to that later. And seeing people in costume and such, but it seems you underestimated the element to which it is really like the social event of the year for Transformersdom, and the extent to which toys played a more central role, because it really felt toy centric. What do you think?
I have to agree. Like just talking to everybody, like toys were definitely like the primary focus of different things. But it was also really cool though. Just it felt good to be able to just like start throwing out quotes from my favorite TV shows, and people pick up on the quotes. And it's not even like obvious ones like Prime Ratchets. I needed that. It was even just like random ones. It was just like random little one-off throwaway lines from like a forgotten episode of Robots in Disguise or something, and then people got it and played it. It's truly like I definitely underestimated just how much of a bonding moment that whole event was. It was spectacular to get the chance to have that happen and hang out with all kinds of different people who were on the level.
On the level. Absolutely. So why don't we take a step back and kind of explore how the convention is set up? And essentially, you have a huge dealer room. It's the biggest room. Adjacent to the dealer room, you have a room for panels. And adjacent on the other side of the dealer room, you have a smaller artist alley. And then really the convention would just organically spread out from there to the hotel bar, to the restaurant, to outside, like you were saying, up to the rooms. And so can you give me some of your highlights for the weekend, some of your finds? Because I know that, as we were saying, it was very toy-centric, and you made out like a bandit is, I think, a generous way to say it.
Made out like a bandit is definitely a very generous way to put it.
So I'm gonna pose you a challenge, and we're gonna talk about bragging rights right now. And I want you to pick the top three because you had like way more than that. And I'm curious of all the things you got, what were your favorites and what impressed you the most and what surprised you the most? And it could be the toy itself, the experience. Just lay it out.
Well, I can tell you it's kind of easy to pick because all of them are spread out over my table right now and they're taking up half the table. So, the top three. Well, I can tell you the number one toy from the entire weekend was Cybertron Defense Red Alert. That is the number one pickup that I made. That was found in a hotel room at like 11 o'clock at night on Saturday night. And Ari was even nice enough to help me pay for that because at that point in time, I was down to very little cash. So he actually helped me pick that one up and pulled that thing out of the box in the hotel room where I bought it at. And that bugger's he is so impressive. Like, I really liked the Cybertron Defense Hotshot when I got him a few weeks ago, the original, not the Selects one. And Red Alert just feels like that, except so much bigger and thicker. And he is a wonderful toy. The fact that his weapon is the size of a deluxe is awesome. And he's just huge. And I think he has one of my favorite head sculpts, period. Because, I mean, the light piping and how far out of his face, like the light piping goggles stick over like his sunken in mouth and everything. And it looks so good. And the toy feels so good. Like, I feel like I could actually drop that thing 20 feet and it would be fine. It's just all around solid and a lot of playability functions too with that big weapon. And then the tools that I discovered, and I think it took me several hours to discover after transforming him multiple times that he had tools. So yeah, he was definitely the number one toy that I got. The second one I would have to say is I managed to get the 2007 premium movie Optimus Prime figure, which was one of the main ones that I was looking at when I came to the convention. But it was funny the way I ended up finding him because I did not see him at all at the main dealer room on Friday. And Saturday, Ari, Jason, and I ducked back in, and I was basically going to get something autographed, and Ari was going to try to get a deal on some render form swords. So I went over, grabbed a couple signatures. I was headed to the render form station to meet up with Ari, and right out of the corner of my eye, as I was like walking, it just pulled me to a stop. I saw a bin that was labeled Transformers 2007 with a Leader movie Optimus mold on top of the pile. I pulled that one off the pile, and it was the one with the blaster, not the sword. But there was one underneath it that then also had a blaster and not a sword. So then I decided to dig into the bottom of the pile. So I dug through the pile. At the bottom, the very bottom, was a third movie Leader Optimus, and it was the one with the sword. So not only is that one important because it was one that I'd really been looking for and really hoping to find, and I got for a very good price. But also, it was the last thing that I bought at the con, and it was also one of those where if I had not gone to get the thing that I got autographed, I would not have found it. So that was really special.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those funny things where you never know what you're going to find at these sort of things. And you were, for lack of a better term, dumpster diving most of the weekend in the parts bin, seeing what you could assemble. You were having a blast just digging through. And it's just so fun that the very last thing that you found was the thing that you were looking for and that you had talked up all weekend. You were hoping to find that exact thing. So that was pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, 3/5 of my Energon combiner were pretty much found and assembled in a parts bin. So, I mean, three-fifths of them, I probably could have finished a whole one out of that bin if I could have found a few more hand and foot pieces. But besides those two, the number 3 would have to be the G1 Dreadwing I got, and that's simply because of the story behind it. Because that was basically a when I pulled the Darkwing and Dreadwind out of that bin in a hotel room at like 1 a.m. Friday night. It was pretty much I pulled them out, and then that began a half-hour adventure of him and hauling and putting them back and taking them back out and talking to the guy who owned the bin. And basically those two, and together with a also complete and in very nice condition G1 Slapdash and G1 Flywheels. Those 4 were an adventure, or just an adventure, because that's the longest I've ever dealt with somebody, and probably the most successful I've ever been at getting a really good deal. And I mean, those 4 were a very special win right there. And they're also important too, because now I'm only 2 Power Masters shy of having the entire collection of them, which would be kind of really awesome to have that entire little subgroup together. And these ones are cool because this is they're like one of those 1 a.m. in a hotel room with some alcohol in the system, dealing with another guy who has even more alcohol in the system. And you pick up things that you never would have thought you actually would have picked up at a con. It wasn't even on your list at all, but then was there, and it was the desire to see those end up in my hands took over, and it was awesome to get the chance to do that, and then just be able to take those back to the hotel room. And it's like we got back to the hotel room at like 1:30 or something. We're there, and I'm transforming this G1 Dreadwind and Darkwing at 1:30 in the morning, and it was awesome.
Yeah, until like 2:30 almost in the morning. We were up pretty late that night. And also, I think we went into the weekend with you making an impassioned plea, which is somewhat unusual. Most people don't want to be counterpunched, but you're like, Ari, I'm going to need you to counterpunch me a lot and consistently. And that was one where you would look over and like, do you think it's worth it? And I'd say, yeah, I don't know anything about G1 or what those are worth, but yes, you should buy them and blow half your budget on the very first night, which was great. I guess like abstracting it a little bit, that's a good segue into another topic on my list, which is how you budgeted for this convention and any tips you would have now that you've had the experience of having to go over a little bit, or at least having to revise your expectations about what would be a reasonable amount to spend, especially since you felt like you did get a lot of amazing deals where if you were just in the market, you probably paid half or 60% what you would have on places like eBay or on Facebook. So can you comment on budgeting and any reflections on that process?
Yeah, I actually can. So pretty much when I went to the event, I like bought my tickets and I had the hotel room and everything. And pretty much I was gonna I kind of had it to myself that I was gonna take $500, and I was gonna be like a firm cash budget. So anything I got had to fit within that 500. And when I ran out of cash, that was gonna be the end of the buying.
Oh, and let me just interrupt to say that's a very generous budget. But if you go to one of these things and your budget is $50, your budget is $100, your budget's $1,000, you will find interesting things that will fit your budget. So don't let the raw number be daunting or intimidating, because you can bring any amount of money. It's more about how to think of it going in. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much like what you find and also where you tend to look, because those parts bins you can find some pretty dang wonderful stuff in those parts bin for really cheap. Because I mean, I pretty much got the last 2 monster bots I needed from a parts bin for $7 a piece, which was, I mean, trying to get those guys anywhere else, they're nowhere near that cheap.
Yeah,
But
and they're
so,
in good condition too.
yeah, the one has a little double cross, has a little bit of yellowing, and I'm gonna him, Pretender, Jazz, and my flywheels are gonna get some Toy Hack stickers here to round them off nicely. But going back to the budget thing, so I kind of had that amount budgeted. But before the con, I knocked it down some because I was also picking up something that Ari had managed to collect for me, and I decided that I was just going to knock my budget down, however much that cost me. And I discovered very quickly, thanks to that Dreadwind and Darkwing deal, that my budget was mostly gone by Friday night, and that's maybe something that I would recommend people don't do, is blow it right off the bat Friday night, because if I didn't increase my budget by so much, I probably would have been out of cash pretty much first thing in the dealer room Saturday morning at the first stand I visited. Because pretty much I went to the first place, bought a bunch of stuff, and then I was down to only $20 at that point in time, so then I had to go and ATM out some more. But so definitely I would recommend that if you have a budget, try not to blow it all first thing Friday night, because you have a wide open floor Saturday to deal with. And you, like, if there's something really good Friday night, definitely encourage you if it's something you really want, but also try to be conscious of the fact that everything opens up Saturday and you get a lot more floor space to look at and deal with. And also make sure you budget not just for your toys, but any sort of media you want, because you may go there and you may just want to get like a signature from an artist, or maybe you don't even have any aspirations of seeing one of the artists there that are in Artist Alley. But you go there and there's a really good chance that you'll see just a nice piece of art that you just really like from an artist, or something that they're handing out and stuff. And you're willing to throw a couple bucks their way or anything, or just a little bit more. So make sure you budget for a little bit more than toys. Have some extra stuff set aside just in case there's something like art-wise that catches your eye. Because that was something big too, because I ended up getting several different autographs and I bought a couple different prints. And that was not something I had budgeted for. I wasn't planning to like buy anything art-wise, but then it turned out to be really good because I got a bunch of different good art stuff to go with all the toys, which just made that haul even sweeter, just because I managed to get some pretty good stuff that I'm going to end up hanging on my wall here eventually.
Very nice. So can you talk about the artists that you saw and that you interacted with, how they were with you, generic fan, and your thoughts generally about the presence of artists and how that added to the experience?
See, the artist really felt like it added authenticity to the event, because you can pretty much like the dealer room itself is a very large version of basically like eBay in person, or even going to a collector's store and it's just a supersized version of a local collector's store. So I mean, the real size of it is part of what makes the toy part of the hunt so good, and the just a sheer variety of stuff you can find. But then the artist alley kind of like makes it really feel legitimate, because then you have the people who have helped grow and build the brand, people who have impacted like so many other people's lives, made them better in different ways, and really help bring everything to life and make you love the characters. Because I'm one of those people who loves to have the fiction to support the characters, and oftentimes my favorite toys in my collection are ones where I feel a special connection to that character through a TV show, even if the toy itself isn't necessarily that good. So getting the chance to interact with the artist, the different people I got autographs from and interacted with, I got to meet David Sobolov, who voiced Beast Wars Depth Charge, Blitzwing in the Bumblebee movie, and Shockwave from Transformers Prime. So he's voiced characters that aren't really like my top favorites, but they're characters that like are really good characters overall. And he has a really good voice and real talent for portraying those different characters. So I managed to get him to autograph my original Depth Charge toy. And you could tell how much he loves Transformers and how much he enjoys coming to these different things. Because even just signing the Depth Charge, he was talking to me about how many different ones he signed and how he's tried so many different locations to figure out the right spot on that toy to autograph it as well. So it's really cool to get to talk to him. Then artist-wise, I got to I ended up getting autographs from him, got to talk to Alex Milne, Jack Lawrence, Casey Collar, Josh Burcham, and Josh Perez, which was really cool to be able to see those different guys. Josh Burcham, I follow on Twitter, and he has all kinds of really cool art. And I actually bought a little print from him that I actually had liked and saved to my phone whenever he originally drew it, I think last year, actually. So it's kind of cool to get that in hand one autographed by him. And then when I got to meet Alex Milne, who is my personal favorite artist, and Jack Lawrence, who's another favorite, I got the chance to get not only get autographs with them, but I even got to take a picture with both of them, which is really awesome just to get to meet and then talk to them. And they knew who I was whenever I told them that I reviewed many of the comics that they drew. And they asked me questions about their art too. They're like, how did you feel about this? Like, I tried a little bit different style with this one comic. Like, even getting a chance when I talked to Josh Perez, the big thing he talked about was I asked him to autograph my More Than Meets the Eye 55, which had the Megatron with the Spark Flowers cover on it. And he was talking about how whenever he drew that, he did that cover, that was the first cover where he tried a completely new style of coloring. And it was really interesting just to get to hear him talk about how basically he was kind of dealing a little bit more with like putting color down and then almost like shining an artificial light on it to get the look that he wanted. It was really awesome because you can tell how much these guys put love and heart into their work and how much they love it. And it's also really cool to let them know and it makes them feel so good to see how much the people that they've done all this art for really appreciate their efforts and how much they've contributed to help grow their fans as Transformers fans.
That's awesome. Did they bite?
No, but I keep getting told that Alex Milne and I look like brothers. So
you do. It's really freaky. It's really freaky.
Every single person at work today that I showed that picture to said that. They're like, "Oh my God, your favorite artist is your doppelganger."
Not untrue.
It really isn't. And the more I look at it, the more it's like, yeah, I bet you Alex Milne felt like he was kind of looking at a little bit of a mirror.
I mean, next time you go to a convention, you could cosplay as Alex Milne and see if that gets you anywhere.
It probably wouldn't be too hard until somebody asked me to draw, but because I am nowhere near as good as him, because I watched him draw Rung's head and shoulder from memory in like 20 seconds. He was just like, he sketched, like there was no hesitation. He drew pretty much a perfect run and just Rung, and I'm just like I couldn't do that. I would have to like have a pencil and draw and erase like 8-10 times and before I tried to finalize it. Nope, he just banged one out in 20 seconds like it was nothing.
So there were a lot of little trinkets and things that you were able to get in addition to little pieces of art. And I was curious which ones were your favorite and which were the most unexpected or just totally out of left field that you're like, oh wow, this is something that's available and it's not going to be available anywhere else.
From this one little art studio, I got these adorable little die-cast cans of Kremzik energy drink, and it's absolutely adorable. I was actually recommended to that stand from the Robots with Coffee guys, and because they got coffee mugs from there, and then I went over there and they had the little Kremzik energy cans, and they were so sweet. I just asked them gave them a couple bucks, and they tossed some Kremzik energy drink cans at my way, which are sized for the figures, which is pretty dang awesome to actually have like the little Kremzik energy drink cans. And then, so, I mean, that was just really cool. And then, I mean, even just kind of walking around and seeing the different cosplays as well, because there were some really, really good ones. And I think my favorite of the entire weekend was there was this guy who was dressed up. I mean, he had this wonderful Soundwave look down, and he even had a little Ravage and Laserbeak he was carrying around with him. So it was just awesome to see all the different things and people expressing which characters were their favorites and everything in all kinds of different ways. And it was even funny because I was not the only one who was walking around the con with a Ghostbusters Optimus Prime box strapped to my back as a proton pack. There were others who were walking around with proton packs.
But actual proton packs.
Actual proton packs. So it was just awesome to see like people mixing some of those different sorts of things in with the Transformers as well. And you could tell they were still big fans. They just came with like the little bit of nerd gear that they actually had.
Right. And I think the common thread that links the artists and the various prints that they brought and the drawings that they would do. Other people in Artist Alley who had little trinkets like the Kremsieg energy drink, and the cosplayers doing their homemade stuff, is really that you're getting towards a grassroots level of fandom, and you're getting to an artisanal level or like homemade type of effect, which is really lovely because it means there are these really unique things. Like, for example, there's also one of my favorite shops in the entire show floor were these this group that made Transformers plushies, like those cute, adorable little plushes, and I ended up not getting any, and I regret that. But they have an Etsy shop, so I could order that Grimlock that sold out. And just seeing the love and care that goes into every stitch, like literally and figuratively, is really cool and makes you feel like you are among friends, right?
Exactly. I mean, no matter where you go, like there wasn't a single person that made me feel unwelcome or made me feel like I shouldn't belong there or anything. Everyone was just like walking around. You're just bumping into random people. Like you're leaning down next to somebody searching through a parts bin, and you both start talking about what you're looking for and everything and how things are going while you're just literally sifting through pieces of figures. So it's just like just really cool. Everybody was pretty well open to talking to each other, taking photos and different things. And it felt like one big family, and it was really nice to be able to feel that with so many fans on
Right.
such a big level.
And on also among so many subdivisions of the fandom, right? Because you have your hardcore toy collectors, you had within that G1 people, third-party people, Hasbro people, whatever. You have a younger generation that's more into the cosplay, and you have a mix across the board that's following the comics in one way or another, as well as other media. So you really have complete representation of, on the ground level, what the fandom looks like and what the fandom is looking for, which is really neat. I don't know. It's not a glimpse you are really able to get outside of that setting.
It made me feel really good. There were so many people that really liked the movie and the Transformers Prime designs. Getting the chance to talk with those people and talk about our different designs and that we really enjoyed. It was just awesome to hear other people and their opinions on all those different things as well. And people that actually agree with me on things like the movie designs.
Oh, they don't exist. That's poppycock. No. No. Very fun. So I think we've covered just about everything. And I'm curious, one, you're going to go to the next one, right?
Unfortunately, probably not.
Yes, that's a yes. Go to TFcon 2020. You'll see Dalton back there. Or you'll see some people. But you would want to go to one in the future, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Again, it's just like next year, the one in the spring is going to be in Orlando.
Oh,
So,
I hear there's
and
going to be one in Chicago. Or there should be one in Chicago, too.
yeah, it looks like they might be trying to do like a spring and a fall one now, which would be interesting. But I know the spring one's going to fall right around the time when I'm moving, and the fall one's pretty much going to fall like right when I'm getting home from my honeymoon. So probably not next year, but it's definitely a experience that I look forward to going through again because I look forward to being able to go, and also hopefully next time we'll be able to get a few more people there as well because I know that there were a couple people who really wish they could go, but unfortunately circumstances deemed that they weren't able to. But it was still cool to be able to hang out with guys that I got to go with, like Ari here, and
Yay.
it was really awesome. So I look forward to doing it again in the future, and hopefully in the future then we can have a bigger group too, and we can just the bigger the group, the more shenanigans you get up to.
Oh, absolutely. And also, has this experience opened you up to exploring more local conventions or fan events?
Most certainly. I'd definitely be open for those, especially since I know that there's a decent number of Transformers fans who are in my general area and who were even at that convention, and we got the chance to talk, and we began realizing just how many of us were from the same general area and living only about a half hour apart. So,
Which is awesome.
yeah, so it definitely helps me think that I can definitely go to more local things as well, and I know that I might be able to see some of those same people and also see people who are just as passionate about this as I am.
Awesome. And so, any last parting thoughts or any observations or any final things to say before we sign off here?
If you at least once when you go to a convention, I would definitely recommend doing the custom class. Even if you only do it once, one convention, definitely recommend doing it. It's just so much fun to be able to do all that effort and kind of make something your own. So that's really cool. Definitely don't be afraid to talk to anybody at the conventions, because everyone is more than willing to talk to you. And don't feel like the artists there are too big for you. They are part of their favorite thing. They say during the convention and even after it is they love to be able to talk with all the different fans and everything, and just shows how much like appreciation we all have for each other's work. And the conventions are just very welcoming. If you get the chance to go and definitely take it up on that offer. It's basically like getting a chance to meet a wide open, like crazy family where everybody shares similar interests to you, and you can just have a blast with it. And maybe you'll even find some random grail item that you never knew you wanted.
Like you did.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dalton. This has been good, and I'll talk to you later, all right?
Sounds good. Thank you.